Jays win, but a series loss helps absolutely nothing. So, where are we at here?
You are Locked On Blue Jays, your daily Toronto Blue Jays podcast. Part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
Welcome back to Locked On Blue Jays. Thank you for making Locked On Blue Jays your first listen every day. We are free and available wherever you get your podcasts and on YouTube. Part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
This episode of Locked On Blue Jays is brought to you by Prize Picks, the easiest and most exciting way to play daily fantasy sports. Go to prizepicks.com/LockedOnMLB and use code all lowercase LockedOnMLB for a first deposit matchup to $100. I'm Braden Wasco. He's Carter First. You can find us on Twitter, Braden5 Wasco. Carter First, too, as well on Instagram and TikTok at Locked On Blue Jays. Drop the subscribe button here on YouTube. It really helps us out, keeps us the top of your guys' page. And honestly, it's been growing, but we still notice like 68% of you guys aren't subscribed. So it helps us. Might as well do it. It's free. It's there. Do it. If you're listening anywhere else, we appreciate it. Tune into the rest of our content on our shorts and reels and I don't know, Carter, TikToks, the 9,000 other things that we post on. It's been a slow couple of weeks here in Blue Jays land. I think everybody is well aware of where this team stands and where this team will finish. And now, you know what? I've sort of moved past it into I'm going to watch these games and I'm going to enjoy watching baseball. I'm not going to worry about where things are going at the end. I'm just going to enjoy myself watching these games. Friday's game was interesting. It was close. It was not necessarily what you wanted to see through the first 5 or so innings, but they made stuff happen. Of course, the Blue Jays, like I said, went 1-3, I guess, or 1-2 on the weekend. Not great, but they lose Friday 5-4. They lose Saturday 7-3, and they won last night, Sunday, or afternoon, I guess, yesterday. They win 5-4 as well in a crazy game. A lot of home runs. It was nice to see. We do have our big trade deadline episodes coming out. We're trying to figure all that out. And Friday, we got a guest that some of you may know in the Blue Jays community. He'll be on Friday, I believe, for that podcast recording Thursday. And then, of course, big trade deadline episode. We got a bunch of stuff coming out for you guys. We're getting back into the shorts and the reels and everything. Took a little bit of a break for the All-Star week because there's a lot going on. But Carter, let's start here. How are you doing, my man? How was your weekend? Because we can get to the Blue Jays stuff.
Yeah, not a lot of positives to talk about for the Toronto Blue Jays. So let's get into some positives over the weekend. Big win for me in fantasy. Braden just couldn't get it done, unfortunately. I told him I was going to upset him since like week 3. So my team just is leading the league again in points against. My fantasy team just plays no defense I've heard of on that team. Kind of the opposite of the Toronto Blue Jays. But I get my win. I'm back to 500. It's not something the Blue Jays are used to, but knock it off Braden. Again, we'll see what happens in that fantasy league. Hit my first bomb on Friday. That was kind of cool. 12-0 at the end of the top of the first. That's something that was something to say the least. We were playing it to a bunch of our friends on that Friday. So that was definitely nice to rub in their faces a little bit. But other than that, I just kind of relaxed, caught up on a lot of sleep, which was good. Watched some Toronto Blue Jays baseball. Again, expectations are fairly low now. You can't really, I used to be so emotionally invested in this team. Now I just kind of expect them to lose. So when they win, it's like a pleasant surprise. So obviously a nice game on Sunday. But now the Toronto Blue Jays are 2-5 this season against the Detroit Tigers. That's never going to be a recipe for success. Reese Olson didn't even pitch that full game on Saturday. We haven't faced Tyreek Skubal once, and they're 2-5. So that is exactly how this Toronto Blue Jays season has gone. Overall, good weekend. Baseball-wise, not great. I feel like we're going to be saying that a lot for the rest of the year on this podcast. But the trade deadline's coming up. That's our World Series. That's going to be the biggest moment of this season. We're going to have to see who goes, who stays, what they get back. Again, we're probably going to recap this or go over this trade deadline a little bit here on the Tuesday episode. And then we'll have our big recap, breakdown, whatever the moves are, whatever we think the moves are going to be with Skylar and Dal coming up. But Braden, how's your weekend?
Yeah, a little bit of an interesting weekend for me. Obviously worked the Blue Bomber game on Friday. They lose devastating fashion to Saskatchewan. That's not something you love to see. And then, watched the Blue Jays game when I was at work there as well. Saturday, we went out to Pinawa Birthday, Pinawa, Manitoba. For those of you who know, for those of you who don't, doesn't really matter anyway.
It's not a person, just so you guys know.
Yes, yeah, it's a place, it's a town, and so went out there, parade in the morning. We did the float down the river. I put a bet on the Blue Jays game on the Saturday. It hit. Obviously, they didn't win that game, but the bet hit, so I'll take it. Won $60. It was nice. Then we went out and they do this like big beer garden stuff, that was a ton of fun. We met up with a couple buddies I haven't seen in a long time, so stayed at their house, and that was a ton of fun seeing everybody. Uh, and then yeah, late night, got back, woke up pretty early this morning, ripped back to the city, chilled out, watched the Jays game, chilled. It was a very very low key day, sort of nice, sort of what I needed. It was a good recovery. I'm back next weekend. We got Country Rising on Friday night, which is like a big country festival here in Winnipeg. So that's going to be a ton of fun. Ton of people from like our small town going out for that as well. So Carter, it was a good weekend. I got to see the Blue Jays win last night. That was fun in a game that really sort of exploded. George Springer will continue to just be the biggest dog out there, an absolute unit. 2 home run day for George Springer yesterday. Obviously, 3 hits, went 3 for 4, 3 runs scored, 3 RBI, 2 home runs, 1 strikeout as well. I mean, just I look up and down this team. Vlad's still doing Vlad things, but in that Friday game, which actually I'm going to skip around a little bit here because I wanted to start originally with the Vlad home run, 117.5 miles an hour off the bat. That thing was the quickest baseball to leave the park I might have ever seen. It was an absolute rope.
Yeah, that thing was still going up on the way to, out. I think it hit the second deck of the Rogers Center there. Just an insane swing. Vladdy got absolutely all of that baseball. So fun to watch in that moment. When Vladimir Guerrero Jr. gets all of the baseball, that thing gets out in a hurry. It's unbelievable to see. Again, they don't win that game. So in the big picture, you don't really win anything there. But again, we always say on this podcast now, you got to take the small moments in. We completely flipped from where we were at the start of the season. But that was an unbelievable home run. George Springer in the Sunday game, 10 total bases, just ridiculous. Like this guy, George Springer in his last 30 games, 108 appearances, 33 hits, 8 home runs, 26 RBIs, an OPS of 990. He's hitting 306. That's the George Springer we needed earlier on in the season. Maybe we would have got a few more wins. Again, the way this team is projecting, though, anyway, it doesn't really matter. Probably not, but it would have been nice to see George Springer kind of activate earlier on. But he's up to a 711 OPS. So again, this guy like a month ago had like a 570 OPS. So he's got it up 130 points. Unbelievable performance from George Springer over the weekend. And Vladdy had quite the weekend as well. So again, from your stars or your 2 of your 3 stars, we'll get into the Bichette injury as well again. But those 2 have been very good recently. Nice to see, obviously. You want some of the other teams to start raking as well. You've got Spencer Horwitz there. IKF still injured. If Bichette was hitting, again, maybe this team would have been effective. But Vladimir Guerrero Jr. over the weekend, 5 for 12, 2 home runs, 3 extra base hits, 4 RBIs. This guy's expressed that he wants to stay in Toronto. Keep him in Toronto. Give this guy like $1 billion. I don't really care at this point. When you have a superstar like Vladdy that wants to stay in Toronto, a city like Toronto, you got to lock him up. They need to do that. But again, just overall, great weekend from Springer and Vladdy. Pitching, it's sort of whatever. I mean, UC Gucci we'll get into after, but Sunday game, let's start there. Overall, just thoughts, highlights, whatever you want to get into.
Yeah, first thing, Dalton Varsho saved that baseball game 100%. That game is all him. I don't care what he did at the plate. I don't care anything else. Dalton Varsho with that catch at the wall was the most disgusting grab. I feel like I'm saying this every couple of weeks. Dalton Varsho made a game-saving play. Dalton Varsho stole a bunch of runs here. Dalton Varsho in the field is undefeated. If he doesn't get a Gold Glove this year, I don't know who makes these decisions, but I will be calling for names on Twitter if he doesn't get a Gold Glove, Carter. But yeah, besides that, I mean, they get the win. I mean, really the only point of attack that this Detroit Tigers team had yesterday was the grand slam off of Kevin Gausman. Everything else, I mean, it was all Blue Jays in an 11-hit game from the Jays. Like I said, Horwitz 1 for 4, Vlad 1 for 4, JT 1 for 4, Varsho 1 for 3, Schneid's 2 for 4. Good to see him this weekend. Get a little bit of a comeback start to get the bat going again. Ernie 2 for 3. He's been money as well. And 0 for 4 from from Leo Jimenez, of course. And Another guy that I will bring up after is Yimmy, since I brought that up. He was an absolute dog. We'll get into that in the second game. Carter, just overall with the boys this weekend, I don't know, man. Your thoughts on this Sunday game? Like, what are you taking away from it, if anything?
Yeah, Kevin Gausman looked good. Struggled a little bit in the first inning. His fastball splitter combination was getting left over the middle of the plate, which, I mean, obviously he got two guys on base. But a great pickoff move to David Schneider that they've worked that play a lot of times throughout the season. Gets him out of a jam. Yeah, it was pretty much that fifth inning. He gives up that grand slam. Other than that, looked pretty good. 6 2/3 innings. More of Kevin Gausman's start. The location in some of his innings looked a little bit spotty to me. Was catching a lot of the middle of the plate, but honestly, maybe I can't really say this as a Blue Jays fan, but the Detroit Tigers are not a good baseball team. We're 2-5 against the Detroit Tigers when, again, we didn't face Skubal. Resources pitched a couple times, didn't pitch that full game on Saturday. You can't get the win there. So this could have been a lot worse. Again, 2-5, like, can it get worse? Yes, it could, unfortunately. But yeah, you got to win games against the bad teams if you want to be a decent team. Obviously, the Toronto Blue Jays are not that good of a team. That's why they're on this huge skid that they're on, obviously just not winning baseball games. But overall, George Springer fully back, Spencer Horwitz still having good at-bats. IKF, I want this guy to come back so badly.
Yeah.
I miss IKF. He looks so good. Obviously, if you have IKF in this lineup, you probably it's a weird spot for the lineup. You probably have to hit him 7 or 8 because there's not a lot of space in that top 3 of the order. Justin Turner at bats. I know he fouls off a lot of pitches, but there were so many double plays that he grounded into this weekend. But overall for the Sunday, nice to get a win in the grand scheme of things, I guess. Nice to watch competitive baseball, but you definitely want to see more from this team. One thing I noticed is Henny Cabrera. When Henny Cabrera is on, he does this little like squat strut at the end of his delivery.
Yeah.
Like, especially when it's like a 3-2 count or he gets a strikeout. It's like me and beer pong. If I'm really feeling good, I'm willing the ball into the cup and he's willing the ball into the strike zone. So it was nice to see from Henny Cabrera. And then Chad Green, obviously a very good 1 2/3 inning save. Looked really good again. Chad Green, I think, doesn't really get the credit that he deserves. He has an under 2 ERA, has been a huge rock for this bullpen. I think it's just because the bullpen as a whole has just been horrible this entire season. Chad Green's been very good. But other than that, again, big picture, like you look at the game on Sunday, great game, nice win, but you lose 2-3 at the Detroit Tigers. It's tough to get excited about that.
Yeah, it is. And you know what? Talking about some of these guys, it's frustrating to see because now that this team's finally finding the long ball, finally finding ways to score some runs, that's what we've been asking for all season. They got to hit the long ball. You need the long ball. And they're getting it now and still not really translating to win. So it's a bigger team issue, which we're well aware of at this point. I think everybody watching this team is well aware of. But yeah, taking the win out of it is great. You needed one at that point. I mean, you probably expected to get the one on Friday, didn't. The Saturday was a write-off, but yeah, this Sunday they needed it. They needed it bad, just for, I think, morale, honest, if anything. Yeah, and getting, like you said, getting IKF back, Carter, that's going to be huge. I can't wait to see him back. He's one of the guys that we talked about going into the All-Star break, or it might have been into the weekend. I can't remember. Just about how important he's been this season, about being able to get on base, being able to be that guy that gets driven in. They need a guy that can be on base for Vlad and Springer to drive in, and he's been an absolute rock, him and Horwitz together. So I can't wait for him to come back. Hopefully it's going to be soon. There hasn't been quite an update of exactly when yet, but I don't think it's going to be too long. And then Carter, I want to go back to the Saturday game because Yimmy came back, and we're going to take a quick break, but I want to get into Yimmy because, oh my goodness, this guy is electric, Carter. Absolutely electric.
Today's episode is sponsored by Prize Picks. I've watched pretty much every Toronto Blue Jays game up to this point, and when I watch the Jays games with my friends, we always find ourselves predicting the next outcome in at-bats, whether it's a strikeout, a hit, a home run. George Springer home runs I've been hammering recently. It's been working out pretty well with me among my friends, but Prize Picks also gives me the opportunity not just to prove myself to my friends, but also to make some money off my picks. Don't miss your chance to add your favorite players to the diamond from your Prize Picks entries. Whether it's strikeouts, RBIs, or first inning runs, take your pick of more than or less than and add them to your Prize Picks entries today. Prize Picks is very simple to play. I can make my picks and submit my entries in as little as 60 seconds. You know which players are going to perform on specific nights. This is a no-brainer. Download Prize Picks and start making your picks today. You can download the app and use code LOCKEDONMLB for a first deposit matchup to $100. That's code LOCKEDONMLB for a first deposit matchup to $100. Take care of all your vehicular maintenance needs with our partner, eBay Motors. eBay Motors has everything you need to maintain your vehicle and level it up to peak performance. From superchargers, roof racks, exhaust kits, LED headlights, and more. Whether you're into speed, power, or style, eBay Motors has got you covered. With over 122 million parts for your vehicle, you'll always find exactly what you're looking for. And with eBay Guaranteed Fit, your part is guaranteed to fit your ride every time or your money back. Because with eBay Motors, you're burning rubber, not cash. In the great streets of Winnipeg, I popped my tire this recent week, damaged my rim a little bit, so I decided to go for new rims. eBay Motors, their experts, gave me a great opportunity to get exactly what I was looking for, very easy to use, and I was in and out of there very quickly. With all the parts you need at the prices you want, it's easy to turn your car into the MVP and bring home that win. To keep your ride or die alive, you can go to ebaymotors.com. Eligible items apply, exclusions apply. eBay Guaranteed Fit, only available for U.S. customers. And there we are.
All right, we're back. So Carter, we talked about the Sunday game. Let's get a little bit into the Saturday game, and one guy in particular that we wanted to talk about. We are huge fans of Yimi Garcia, and what a day from him in his first comeback since coming back off of being injured. He goes 1 inning, 3 Ks. Just looks like an absolute beauty out there. He is, and it's going to be brutal because this is probably one guy that we'll get into in the trade deadline episodes as he's probably on the chopping block for sure.
Yeah, for me, him and Kikuchi are two guys that I definitely see being moved at the deadline, maybe even as a package deal. Yimi Garcia has probably been, either with him and Chad Green, one of the best relievers on this team. Wherever he goes, I'm assuming he's going to get moved. He's going to make an immediate impact. He's going to be a high leverage guy. He is very good at what he does, obviously coming back and not even missing a beat after that short tenure where he was not playing with the Toronto Blue Jays due to injury. The only problem is he has been injured multiple times this season. Your best availability, or the best ability, is availability, as we say on this podcast. So with Yimi Garcia being out, you can't help your team if you're on the injured list. So that is unfortunate. But Yimi Garcia, just picking up where he left off, continue to be dominant for this team. And with a bullpen, especially right now, again, doesn't really matter at this point of the season. But where you're at right now with Yimi Garcia is he's being impactful on the team. But it's not really helping this team too much in the big picture, considering how bad the rest of your bullpen is. Recently, this isn't like a shot at Yimi Garcia. It's more of a shot at the rest of this baseball team. Watching the Toronto Blue Jays this season is kind of like your parents forcing you to watch your siblings, like hockey game, baseball game, whatever it is. You're like, oh, like you know they're probably going to lose a lot of the time, but like you're still going there. You're still going there to support. But like deep in your heart, you're like, oh, I'd rather not be doing this, but it's on right now. I love this team so much. I love my brother. Maybe not in your sense, but again, overall, just not a great season from the Toronto Blue Jays. And we're not even, there's a little bit of hate watching going on, I would say. But again, I can't even watch the rest of the MLB because I'm like, if I watch the Yankees play, I know they're not playing good baseball right now, but they're set up to make the playoffs. You watch the Orioles, they're just a good baseball team. The Red Sox, Jared Duran's pretty cool to watch. Rafi Devers, obviously that team has exceeded expectations, while the Toronto Blue Jays are way below expectations. And it just pisses me off, to be honest.
Yeah, I'm in the same boat. It's almost where, well, for the both of us, we're so dedicated fans that we love this team and we're going to ride or die with them, as you say in your eBay Motors ad. But it's painful to sit here and just watch them lose and watch these games when the outcome is not making playoffs anyway. So it is one of those sort of brutal realities we have to face as Blue Jays fans now. But Carter, you talked about the injuries, right? And Yimi Garcia being able to bounce back from his injury. And sort of the thing that gets me a little bit is a lot of these guys haven't been able to bounce back coming off of injury. The start of the season in particular, we saw so many guys trying to make a comeback off the injured list. And they come back and they're sort of shells of themselves until a couple weeks later. Yimi Garcia was able to bounce back so well. That's why I'm really praying that IKF comes back and is able to do exactly what he's been doing. But I think that's an unrealistic ask. I think when guys spend a long instance on the injured list and try to make a comeback, it usually doesn't go over well for their first bunch of games. But we'll have to see what happens with IKF. Just looking at the rest of this game, Carter, I mean, there's not much to say. They got 6 hits. There's not a ton going on. I'll go over some stats. I mean, Vlad had half the hits on the team. He had 3 hits. He had half of the hits. Springer obviously got a hit as well. Horwitz went 0 for 3. Turner 0 for 4. Danny 0 for 4. Varsho 0 for 2. Davis Schneider 1 for 3. Leo Jimenez 0 for 3. Kevin Kiermaier 1 for 2. Ernie 0 for 1. I don't know, man. And then there's Kikuchi, right? Goes 5 innings, gives up 5 hits, 4 runs, gets 8 Ks. Right? Oh, that was what the other part of the bet was that I made. Kikuchi over 6 strikeouts, which
There you
easy.
go.
But it just wasn't a good day. That was I feel bad. I was on a river tube trying to watch this game, and it was sort of cutting in and out as I'm lying there with the sort of audio coming through, but didn't get to watch all of it because the internet crapped out. But yeah, I feel bad for you having to sort of sit there and watch this game, to be honest with you.
Yeah, this game just another Justin Turner masterclass. Left 3 on base. Again, just going over his last 15. I'll go over his last 7 after as well. 54 at bats, 9 hits. Yeah, 60 strikeouts, 6 walks. That is good for a 167 average. In the last 7, his average is 111. He's 3 for 27. Justin Turner, it's just not been a signing that's worked out. He started off really well, then was horrible. One of the worst batters I've ever seen, I believe, in the month of May. Then it kind of caught fire again for a couple weeks, and now he's just horrible again. So having this guy in the 4 spot, it's just like a black hole right now. The amount of double plays he's grounding into. Again, he does eat up pitches. He does help with the pitch count, but you need offense at some point. And again, the offense recently, I'd say over the last month, it hasn't really been the problem. It's been about league average, which again, going into the season, we said with how good the starting pitching is, the bullpen, as the expectation was, it's supposed to be at least decent, maybe league average, maybe not top 5, top 3 like it was last season. But overall, like the offense in totality has not been very good. Just looking at like the home run numbers, George Springer, as we know, had a horrible first 2/3 of the start of the season, and he is second on the team in home runs. So it's one of those things. Justin Turner, just in the 4 spot. The team doesn't really have a cleanup hitter right now. Vladdy 3, Spencer Horwitz 2, Springer 1. I think that is pretty self-explanatory. I think a lot of people would agree with that. But other than that, you look throughout this lineup. Jano's not hitting well. Dalton Varsho can't hit a beach ball. Alejandro Kirk's not good. This team doesn't have enough depth to consistently produce offense. And again, you see it in this game.
Yeah, absolutely. That is the problem. The guys that you need to be driving in runs are your 3-4 spot, and we don't have a 4 hitter right now. That's absolutely the problem. And I mean, looking back, I'll throw this out. There's something I want to get to in the third segment here, but Eric Swanson's back with the Toronto Blue Jays. If you had Eric Swanson pitching even close, even a minute slight chance that of closeness that he was last year, and Jordan Romano close to where he was last year and not injured, this bullpen's probably looking better. You got Yimi Garcia, Chad Green, Trevor Richards, who have all been good. Trevor Richards, I mean, fallen off a little bit since, but I think overall, you'd be looking at this bullpen maybe to the point of, yeah, they were just as good as last year. But the cards just didn't fall this way for this team. And so when the bats finally are heating up, the bullpen's dead. We talked about this. This team can't find a consistent stride within themselves. It's, yeah, the starting pitching's great. Okay, but then the offense and the bullpen suck. Then the next day, the offense is really good. The starting pitching's terrible. The bullpen's okay. Then the following day, the bullpen is just the worst thing on planet Earth. And the guys score 7 runs and still lose a ball game. It's just so back and forth. It's so frustrating. And that's sort of why I'm not really putting a ton of stock into any of these games. I'm just watching these games to enjoy baseball. I'm not watching them to try to get wins. I'm just saying, okay, there's Toronto Blue Jays baseball on. We're here. We're fine. I don't know, Carter. There's not much else to say about that second game. We can go back to the Friday game a little bit, like we talked about already. Vlad hit that absolute devastating home run. That ball, I know I said it earlier, but oh my goodness, was it hit hard. I could not believe it. Right off the bat, I'm like, wow, that's absolutely launched. And then he did that little bat flip too. Oh, electric. Vlad is an electric player when he's playing well because, man, he gets the people going.
Yeah, his home runs are so fun to watch. But before I do get into Vlad, I just want to quickly go back to the bullpen. You go to last year, the bullpen just wasn't injured at all. There was pretty much no injuries throughout this bullpen. So again, this goes back to Ross Atkins, especially with, like, you go look at offensively, you look at the bullpen. The offense, huge problem last year. What do you do to address that? IKF was big, good, but then Justin Turner was your big sign in the offseason, paying him $13 million, hit $230. Not exactly what you were looking for. And then just with the bullpen, Eric Swanson injured at the start of the year, just hasn't been nearly close to himself. Jordan Romano injured, Chad Green injured once in this year. So you're looking at guys in your AAA system. Zach Pop comes up, is okay at some parts, especially recently has been horrible. Nate Pearson has had his moments. Brendan Little's been good, a nice guy to have come up in your system. Jose Cuas, obviously, just terrible. Ryan Burr's been all right as well, just not a lot of playing time. You need some of your AAA guys to come up in these situations and be better than what they were. Obviously, you got to hope that your bullpen's not injured as well. But that's kind of where we're left with the bullpen. You can't expect every single player to have a career year again. Tim Mesa falls off the face of the earth. Just all goes back to Ross Atkins not setting this team up enough for success, especially from the bullpen arms. You look at the offense. That's the biggest thing for me is Justin Turner's your four-hitter, and it's been a problem this entire season, and it will continue to be a problem unless Ross Atkins can make a big signing in this offseason. Going back to Vladdy, I mean, it's such a fun home run to watch. Like, it was out of the Rogers Center in like 3 seconds. Like, they did barely had the camera pan to the ball quick enough before the ball hit the side of the bleachers there in left center. Unreal play from Vladimir Guerrero Jr. Yeah, when he gets all the baseball, it's absolutely crushed. George Springer again looked great in that game too. But one thing I do want to get into is the Bichette injury. So I believe that was in the bottom of the 6th inning. Hits a ball that looked like it was going down the line. I think it was a nice catch by Wandale Perez. And then right away out of the box, he's just coming up limping. You knew it was the same aggravation of the injury. And I got a tweet from Keegan Matheson here. It says Bichette has a moderate calf strain. The MRI showed, and he will miss multiple weeks. I don't know if they gave Bichette enough time to recover, or it's just his calf. Once you have an injury like that, it is a lot easier to re-aggravate these injuries, even if it is completely healed from the last injury that he had. But overall, I think you just got to almost shut down Bichette for the rest of the season. And again, there's been some trade rumors, stuff like that. Might be in his better interest to be shut down for the season. But overall, you got to see how this recovers. Give him more than enough time. If you don't send him off the trade deadline, the season is lost. We don't want to play Bichette and then have him injured and then this be a nagging injury throughout his career. But just another blow to the Toronto Blue Jays roster.
Yeah, and then I put out the TikTok, I believe that was on Friday night, and going over it a little bit, and that's where we're at. It's a lost season. It was a lost season for Bichette anyway. So if you're going to have an injury to a guy, you never want him, but I think this is, I don't want to say best case scenario, because obviously no injury would be best case scenario, but it's not like it's Vlad and he's going down and the only guy who has a heartbeat right now besides George Springer goes down. It's Bichette, who has not been good this entire season. Hopefully he could just, take the rest of the year, say, okay, I'm just going to rehab it, go, hit some balls, find the swing, come back better next year if he doesn't get moved to the deadline, of course, which is a possibility. We'll get into that. We have a ton of stuff going on for trade deadlines and stuff like that, so we'll definitely cover that there as well. Probably quite a bit more in depth. But Carter, I don't know, man. The Friday game, I sort of had a feeling they were going to win this game, and they just came up short. I mean, Springer 1 for 4, Horwitz 1 for 3, then Vladdy 1 for 4 as well with the home run, JT 1 for 4, Bichette 1 for 3, and then Varsho 1 for 4, and Kiermaier 1 for 3. I don't know, man. I don't really have much to say on this. Bassett looked okay. Again, he gives up 5 runs, but I mean, overall, he didn't look terrible. He went 6 2/3. The bullpen comes in and sort of shuts the door as well. But it's not going their way. And I think that's a bit of what's going on this season. There's moves that weren't addressed that needed to be. And I feel like the cards didn't fall how they needed to for this Toronto Blue Jays team either. And I think looking back at last season, they thought that, that they were going to be able to get by based on pitching and defense. And then when you have injuries to everywhere, this should have been seen coming. Like, I fully believe that. I think you can't expect your entire rotation and your bullpen to be healthy for 2 complete straight years. It's just not going to happen. And there should have been some thought process going into that, but there wasn't. And so they don't load up on a bat, and now it comes to bite them. So this is where we are as Blue Jays fans.
Well, yeah, just going back to that 5th inning where Bichette did have that hit. Dalton Varsho, fake single. It was a pop out to left field, just misread, gets on base, whatever. Then you have Alejandro Kirk, who's called on strikes, and you have Ernie Clement, who strikes out swinging. You have 2 opportunities to get a single or just anything, even a fly out to right field to advance the runner. I mean, it wouldn't really matter with 2 outs, but just anything to just be sort of positive for the Jays, and you don't even put a ball in play. And that's exactly how this entire season has gone. So I want to get into a little bit of a segment that I have. I didn't really tell you about it, but it's going to be very easy for you to pick up. But just before we do that and take our last break of this episode, I want to throw it over to the Locked On 24/7 streaming channel, Locked On Sports Today, or the Amazon Fire TV's channel app, whether it's the NFL, NBA, NHL, MLB, college sports, whatever it is. Perfect opportunity to check out expert analysis, whether it's 4 a.m., 4 p.m. You can tune in at any time, as it is 24 hours. But we have some other Blue Jays news and that segment I created that I will get into after this short break.
Today's episode is brought to you by FanDuel. As I told you guys, I have been winning money. I don't know what it is. I'm on a hot streak. I don't want to let it go. And FanDuel is going to probably try to help me out as much as I can, as because I'm going to stick to their same game parlays. I love sports. I love them so much. I never want them to stop. But as the playoffs have winded down in the NHL and NBA, we get fewer games. And the sports aren't sportsing like I want them to. But FanDuel lets me keep the sports going whenever, wherever I want. All I have to do is open the app and dream up bets anytime I'm in the mood. And this summer, FanDuel is hooking up all customers with a booster bonus daily. That's right. There's something there for everybody every day, all summer long. I'm going to be riding the Jays hard. I feel like I'm starting to pick up on some streaks and stuff here that I've been riding. So hopefully that can continue. But, don't take my advice as betting advice because most of the time I lose. So head over to FanDuel.com and start making the most out of your summer.
Yeah, so I have some Toronto Blue Jays news that I just want to go into before I head into that last little bit of a segment here. I got one thing from John Morosi. Again, you got to take this with a grain of salt. Obviously, going back to that Shohei Ohtani, was he on the plane? Was he not? Obviously, he wasn't on the plane. Again, not totally John Morosi's fault, but anyway, that's besides the point. John Morosi tweets, the Blue Jays are expected to consider trade offers for players under contract beyond 2024, not merely those on expiring contracts. He says there's a strong contingent of scouts that will be in Toronto tonight for Chris Bassett, Jack Flaherty matchup. Obviously, that was tweeted on Friday, which in the scenario the Blue Jays are in, again, there's going to be reports about this, like about pretty much everyone on the team. Obviously, we've heard Vladdy, Bo, Danny Jansen, Yimi Garcia, Chad Green. Like, there's pretty much everyone that is decent on the Toronto Blue Jays has been linked to these trades. Chris Bassett, Kevin Gausman, not as much Jose Barrios because he is inked on this team for a very long time. But for me, not really reading too much from this. There's reports on pretty much every player. So I want to see what happens at the trade deadline. Once the first domino falls, I think we'll be able to tell kind of what the Blue Jays are trying to do, what their direction is. The first one I see coming, again, is probably a Yusei Kikuchi trade. But overall, are you taking anything away from these tweets that are happening?
I mean, like we talked about, we'll get into sort of this more in the next few days here, but not really. I mean, it's sort of exactly what we expected, I think. There's got to be moves made, and there's going to be some moves made. It's just what pieces fall. I would be very shocked if Bo Bichette was traded. I think it could happen. I just would be very shocked. Well, again, we'll go into that way more in the next sort of coming days. Carter, something that I heard as well is that Joey Votto did tweak his ankle again.
Oh, God.
Yeah, so he was reevaluated over the weekend. Not sure what has come out of that. I haven't seen anything yet. I feel like we're just not going to see Joey Votto, and he'll play AAA this year, and then he'll go back to live wherever he's going to live, and won't play another game of baseball. That's sort of where I'm at. I think it's just done. I don't know. There's nothing to say. Joey Votto is not going to help this team make the playoffs. So what's the point?
Okay, so I got a scenario for you. This one wasn't the segment I was going to go into, but who would you rather be? Would you rather be Bo Bichette's right calf or Joey Votto's ankle?
Well, with the career that Joey Votto's had, I'm going to say Joey Votto's ankle. And I'm going to go live in, I don't know, somewhere where I can golf and watch baseball my whole life. And I probably wouldn't step on a diamond again if I were him. So I'm going to say Joey Votto.
Yeah, I'm going to go Joey Votto as well. You got to respect the career. Bo Bichette obviously has had a great career as well, but he's only, I think he's 25 or 26. I always mix up him and Vladdy. I know Vladdy's 25 for sure, so Bo would probably be 26. A lot of career left ahead of him. Obviously, if he gets traded, he'll be the greatest hitter to ever touch the face of the earth. And if he doesn't get traded, he should, in my opinion, probably be shut down for the season or maybe come back in September, whatever it is. If he wants to play baseball, he can do that. A quick update I have, don't really have too much to talk about for this one, but it is on Ricky Tiedemann, and just no structural damage in Ricky Tiedemann's forearm. It's good to see, and they expect him to pitch at some point in the season. For Ricky Tiedemann, there's more of a reason for him to pitch because obviously you want him to get innings. This guy has been injured pretty much his entire career since he's been drafted with the Toronto Blue Jays. With Bo Bichette, you've seen what he can do. You've seen Bo Bichette at his best. Just, I think, an offseason from Bo Bichette. I would not be surprised if this guy comes back next year and hits 300 again. Just things aren't going well for Bo Bichette, and players can be bad for an entire year. Obviously, sucks when it happens. But with the way the Toronto Blue Jays are trending again, there's nearly no expectation for the rest of the season. Just let Bo Bichette recover, let him figure things out, and just make sure he's healthy before he's coming back to the field. But this is the thing that I wanted to get into quickly here, and it's just you look at the team, you look at the expectation to start the season, and then you look at how it's going. I just wanted to go over quickly who's overperforming on the Toronto Blue Jays and who's underperforming. for like overperforming for me is a very short list. Vladimir Guerrero Jr. probably slightly overperforming. You could say some people would say that this is moderate. Some people would say he's underperforming. So this one is definitely up for debate. I would have him slightly overperforming. Spencer Horwitz overperforming, easy. Aurelius Martinez, he was 333 average. Got to say he's overperforming, but definitely with those PEDs in his system, I guess you have to automatically give him overperforming. Other than that, Yimi Garcia, Chad Green, IKF, Ernie Clement, maybe. Like that's it. Everyone else on the team underperforming. Like Justin Turner's just been really bad. Alejandro Kirk's been bad. George Springer, I would say he's underperforming. Obviously, at the start of the season he had. Now he's overperforming for him. But again, we'll have to see how that evens out. Bichette, David Schneider just hasn't been that good recently. Dalton Varsho, I think we're going to have to get in discussion later on this season if Dalton Varsho can actually hit baseballs. We're going to have to go over his career stats, stuff like that. But just you look at all these guys underperforming. It's impossible for this team to have success. Jordan Romano, you look at 6.5 ERA. Eric Swanson, 8 ERA. Tim Meza, not even on the Toronto Blue Jays anymore. These are three relievers that you really relied on last season that has just given you nothing this entire season.
Yeah, it's a very, very short list, as you said. Yimi, Chad. IKF is a huge one. IKF is outperforming, I think, what everybody assumed he would be. Again, it's just what this team is. I mean, I think we got to realize that I think we put everybody on a bit too high of a pedestal from last season and the year before and the year before. And it's bound to catch up to them. I think me and you saw some of the signs, but I think as overall Toronto Blue Jays media expect these guys to bounce back like nothing ever happened. And maybe we're starting to see what this team actually is. And I think that the fans are starting to understand that this team isn't a World Series contender. And there has to be moves made to help them get there. It's just the question is, can that happen in one off season? Can that happen in 2 off seasons? Is it going to have to be just a full on pull the plug, get draft picks and restock here? That's going to be the big question. And Carter, don't get me wrong, we have a full week of breakdowns and trade deadline episodes because it is going to get crazy coming up here as the trade deadline is on the Tuesday, I believe, the following Tuesday.
Yeah, we're about a week away from the trade deadline. Probably going to be a lot of moves incoming our way. I do have one more thing I want to get into. Quick talking point here. On Friday's game, it's the first time that I've heard of it. Ross Atkins chant, fire Ross Atkins was chanted on that Friday game. Do you think that's warranted? Just quick thoughts on that. Is that deserving? Do you think they're overreacting? I think I know your answer, but just lay it out for the people here.
No, it's not overreaction. We've seen this. We have not won a playoff game since Ross Atkins took over, besides that first year, but that wasn't his creation, that team. He just got handed that. This team is not good. They're underperforming, as we just talked about, and there wasn't moves made that address the problems in this team in the offseason. There hasn't been trades. There hasn't been talks. Ross Atkins seems like he's going to say anything to the media that he can find a way to weasel his way into keeping his job. And I think that's just unrealistic. I think looking at this the past few years, you have to pull the plug and you have to get somebody in there that can make these moves happen because it's obviously not Ross Atkins. It obviously isn't. The moves that were made were not game-changing moves. And for this team, you need to bring in those big names. And if Ross Atkins isn't the guy to do that, then he's not the guy for this job.
Yeah, I can't say that if I wasn't there with the Toronto Blue Jays fans, that I wouldn't be right in the middle of there. Probably would have had my own drum there, leading the Fire Atkins chant. But just overall, for me, you look at previous success. That's the easiest way to define how a manager is done. You don't have any playoff wins. It's 2016, which is the fake Ross Atkins roster. That wasn't really Ross Atkins at all. That was what he was gifted. But yeah, it hasn't been good. That's the simple way to put it. The Toronto Blue Jays have no playoff success in the last 8 years. So there's no other way for me to put it. Again, you can see the vision and what he was trying to do obviously did not work out. And when things don't work out for this long of a period of time, you got to move on. You got to fix things. Ross Atkins hasn't shown that he can do that. So it's going to be interesting to see what this Toronto Blue Jays front office does in this decision for Ross Atkins. Obviously, we'll be getting into that. John Schneider's career with the Toronto Blue Jays. Just other people, Vladdy, Bo. Again, a lot of things will happen after the trade deadline. But a lot of excitement, a lot of things that could happen before the trade deadline as well. And we'll be covering that all throughout this week and a little bit of next week, obviously before that Tuesday. Just wanted to say thank you guys for watching. Likes, comments, subscriptions. Everything recently has been awesome to see, even though the Toronto Blue Jays are not playing very good baseball. But one more time, I wanted to throw it over to Locked On 24/7 streaming channel, Locked On Sports Today, the Amazon Fire TV's channel app, whether you're tuning in at 3 a.m., 3 p.m., expert analysis anytime throughout the day. Perfect opportunity to head over there. Don't let the Toronto Blue Jays affect you too much emotionally at this point. The season, to put it bluntly, the season's over. Not too much going to happen. If the Toronto Blue Jays, their biggest win streak of the year is 4 games. So they'd have to go on like a 15-game winning streak if they wanted to even have a pulse of a chance of trying to make the playoffs. It's not going to happen. You got 63 games left in the season. Just enjoy baseball while it's on, because we know, especially for me and Braden, that in November, in December, when the Toronto Blue Jays are not playing baseball games, we're going to be like, oh man, would have loved to see the Toronto Blue Jays lose 3-1 to the Detroit Tigers, or 5-4, whatever it is, 5-3, 7-3, you name it. Just we'll be asking for it, but right now in the moment, definitely not the brightest thing for me, and not something that I'm necessarily looking forward to on a day-to-day basis.
Yeah, it is what it is. We're here. We're back this week. Like Carter said, huge trade deadline stuff coming up to you guys. Have a good night. Watch some Jays or I guess no Jays baseball tonight. So tough. And make sure you guys tune in for that trade deadline episode. We have a bunch of discussions to have, possibilities to look at, everything coming up, cast of characters this week. It is a jam-packed week for the Blue Jays boys here. So yeah, hit the subscribe button if you haven't already. We'd really appreciate it. And have a good night.